Wakey, wakey. Oh, come on, pal, get up.
Lies of P is a game that absolutely captivated me when playing it for the first time, and I've been captivated once again with the recent DLC, Overture. I had no plans to make this video, for one because this DLC was shadow dropped on us, and two because I hadn't planned on tackling any Souls-like games on this channel anytime soon, despite being a huge fan of the genre. But I believe as gamers, we have two important responsibilities. The first is to vote with your wallet, which I'm sure you've heard before, and the second responsibility is to spread the word, and as someone who has a YouTube channel, I feel like it would be a crime for me to not pour out my love for the experience known as Lies of P Overture. This review is going to be broken up into two parts. The first part being a run through the surface level elements like the environments, enemies, and weapons that we will find in each area of the DLC, and the second part will be a deeper look at the elements that elevate Lies of P Overture as a true work of art. So there will be some things I skip over in part 1 to save them for a more fitting discussion in part 2 of the video, and there will be spoilers aplenty, so viewer discretion is advised. Let's get started. We start off by waking up in this snowy area, having no idea where we are. As we progress forward, we play in the snow with some enemies, and the game wastes no time throwing a heavy enemy at us, who drags its caged face on the ground, which can take you for a ride, but who we gruesomely decapitate in a nice display of the gore in this game. After killing that beast, we find some new winter-appropriate drip. I must say I am a fan of the new outfits in the DLC, and it's nice that they don't affect your stats, so you can change your outfit without worrying that your armor rating is going to be messed up. This snowy area is short, but has some nice details to it, like these icicles you can smash through to find loot, which had me like this. Also, a quick moment to appreciate the sound in this game, with crisp differentiation between the sound of you walking on ice versus in snow. Also, let's take a second to look at just how good the footsteps in the snow look, and you can see them in the distance not disappearing. Retracing your steps adds more footprints, and running with a certain sword in your hand will imprint the snow as well. Some wonderful detail there. We make our way through the snow to make it to the first major area of the DLC, which is the Krat Zoo. A wonderful entrance awaits us as we are greeted by a badass lion statue and the sound of crows scattering as we interrupt them from their meal of a giraffe carcass. While creepy circus music plays in the background as well, and if this introduction to the zoo wasn't unsettling enough, we have a nice scare to introduce us to these mutated baboons that I absolutely love the design of. Seeing these monkeys had me so excited to see what other twisted animals we'll find in the zoo ahead, but before we can make our way inside the zoo, we need to take down a larger baboon that I again love the design of, and that we took down with another decapitation that was glorious, with the head disappearing from screen and then dropping back down. You'll notice the entrance has a couple references to elephants, which of course was foreshadowing what lies ahead. Inside the zoo there are great details like the woolly mammoth we see ahead of us with a body impaled on its tusk, as well as exhibits all around that add that museum feel to the zoo. As we push ahead, we see this miserable creature that is tough to make out from afar, but up close we can tell is the elephant we anticipated, but to look even more twisted, it has sad horse-looking legs in the back. There are some great sound effects with the elephant here. A cool moment in the early section of the zoo is finding a letter that says to play dead if you see a bear, while giving us a new play dead emote. We make our way back outside and find the bear's cage, and you get an item for playing dead by the bear like the letter said, which is pretty neat. Jiminy Cricket calls playing dead lying by lying down, which is a bar. You can also play dead for these living beasts that I guess are polar bear in the front and gorilla in the back, like a mammalian mullet. The zoo gives us several mini areas of ecosystems, which was cool to progress through, but my favorite part of the zoo is the enemies. The monkeys and elephant, which we already saw, but the best of all is the kangaroos. I love watching these demented looking kangaroos roll and bounce around with their stomachs split open like they're halfway to disembowelment. But then we meet the cracked out kangaroo. This thing absolutely ate my lunch at first. Leaning back on its tail is a creative fighting style for a kangaroo, I thought. It uses its tail, feet, and hands to dismantle me. These things just look insane and were a good challenge that you gotta slow down and be patient when you fight. Before we get into any bosses, around this area we get our first new weapon of the DLC, which is a bow and arrow. The bow itself looks nice with the different colors, but the quiver really looks beautiful with the details in it and just the right amount of color. So this bow and arrow is a main weapon with endless ammo instead of being a sidearm with finite ammo like it usually is in Souls games. There's different attacks you can do with it, and you can see the arrows sticking out of an enemy, which is always a nice touch. I love that they went there with the bow and arrow. I feel that it can pack a punch and can deliver some awesome feeling moves with its fable arts, but it had me too far out of my comfort zone to stick with it. This kill here felt so good though, exploding this enemy as he tries to run away. We also find this new blade and handle weapon in this area that at first glance just looks like a fancy spear, but this thing is badass and so much fun I regret not using it more. You can poke with it, but you can also charge up this rocket-propelled lunge that was so satisfying to get the range right with as you slide your way toward an enemy. You can also shoot fireballs out of this thing like a Roman candle with nice range. Charging up that lunge attack like you're holding back a rocket just feels awesome, and look at this gorgeous execution we get as the cracked out kangaroo's arms go flying in either direction and then the head comes back down into frame. Next up, we have another one of those elephants that we fought inside the zoo, which is nothing too creative. Wait, oh my god. What on earth is this monstrosity? This is a mini-boss in this area that was honestly a pain in the arse to fight, but I love how ridiculous it looks. We already had the elephant with horse legs at the bottom, but now we get a giraffe-like neck that sprouts out with the most ridiculous collection of animal heads ever assembled. A baboon, hyena, zebra, crocodile, wolf, I don't even know, but it is a beautiful creation. For our first legitimate boss that gets a name and health bar at the bottom of the screen, we get the Tyrannical Predator, which is just a giant crocodile with those blue growths on it that are typical of the carcass enemies in Lies of P. Nothing too special here as we are just getting started in this DLC. This croc will try its darndest to get us in its mouth in several ways, with one of those attacks reminding me of the golden hippopotamus from Shadows of the Erdtree, but with a way more reasonable hitbox. A closer look in the croc's mouth reveals what looks like maybe some skulls and a ribcage lodged in there as just a little bit of detail to make this boss design a tad more interesting, but this boss has nothing on the bosses that lie ahead. As we take down the Tyrannical Predator, we make our way to the next area, which is the greenhouse. Here we find these futuristic robot-looking puppets who make it feel like you're doing a dance together when you fight. Also, when fighting one of these, they got their legs stuck in the railing as I killed them, which was kind of funny with them stuck in this pose, but also a nice display of the physics in this game actually acknowledging the bars of the railing like that. And as we progress forward and look back, they are still stuck like that. I really like these biodome views we get in the greenhouse. In addition to robot puppets, we encounter some alchemists who will look familiar if you played the base game. This alchemist in particular is a sicko, as we find him using a monkey corpse as a punching bag until we aggro him. He's roided up like Bane from Batman with tanks on his back pumping some juice into him. We can destroy the tanks on his back, which is kinda interesting, but where things really get interesting is with the boss in this area, Marchiona. Marchiona is frickin' sweet, as we find her sitting on a throne of puppets. Her title is Marchiona, the Puppeteer of Death, and the lore tells us that she has assembled an army of puppets she calls her Army of God, with a plan to force evolution onto the citizens of Krat by forcing them to become puppets, which she and the alchemists see as evolving into immortality. It is so badass, and the fight is sweet too. Marchiona has a bunch of different attacks she throws at you with her energy balls, while her puppet also chips in with attacks. If you get caught slipping, she'll wrap you up with her balls and send her puppet dive bombing at you. This is such a cool fight with the dynamic between Marchiona and her puppet. With the puppet under her command, it functions differently than your typical ONS 2v1 fight. Marchiona commands the puppet to strike, and if you're focused on Marchiona, the puppet will be attacking you from off screen, which could get tiresome, but the game gives you the nice visual cue of the puppet strings turning red to signify the puppet is coming at you, which makes the fight feel unique and also fair. I love that you can approach this fight by either focusing on Marchiona, who is the health bar that we need to take down to finish the fight, or by focusing on the puppet, who will need to recharge if you drain its health bar, opening up Marchiona to some easy hits and some one-on-one time in the process. I was bouncing back and forth between the two strategies of who to attack first, as this fight took me several tries. I honestly couldn't tell you which strategy makes the fight easier, as it seemed fairly difficult either way, and I think that is another sign of a great boss battle. We don't get a cutscene after killing Marchiona, but if we use the ergo we get from killing her, we get these Wolverine claws as a weapon. These things feel nice and smooth to use. I love how you drag them on the ground as you lunge forward here, and you can go to town swiping away like crazy with them, especially when utilizing the Fable Arts. After taking down Marchiona, we end up at a carnival with a wonderfully painted sign to welcome us to the area. There's only one stargazer or bonfire in the carnival and no major bosses, but there's a lot to take in here. We play some carnival games, shooting the targets with our new bow and arrow, and we even get a prize for completing the games. We can go on rides like a Ferris wheel, which gives us a nice view of the area, and a merry-go-round. How fun. We can use carnival coins to pay for attractions like playing a game kinda like Whack-A-Mole, or this attraction that is presented like a clown show with a great entrance for this fire juggling clown that we fight as a mini-boss. They were pretty tough as they blow and throw fire at you, and I love the look of this enemy as they have this nice looking sun head with red balloon-like cheeks that you can see expand as they take a deep breath before blowing fire at us. The other mini-boss in this area is this large circus puppet with a hat like Doug Dimmadome, the owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome. This is them pretty much reusing the Parade Master boss from the base game game, just with different moves, so nothing super remarkable here, but he certainly fits the Carnival setting. Also, I don't know if you really consider him a mini-boss, but if they're an enemy that doesn't respawn when you go to the Stargazer, I typically think of that as a mini-boss. We have some other new enemies in this area as well, like this puppet that slams a box on us, but I pull off a magic trick with a little now you see me, now you don't. This enemy is an example of how the game does a good job of keeping fights interesting by having enemies change mid-fight. In this case, the enemy's box breaks and he has to start fighting with his hands. And elsewhere we see this where if you parry enough, an enemy's weapon can break in half, thus changing the fight. This makes combat in this game more dynamic and should be appreciated. The new weapon we get in this area is this ridiculous pinwheel bicycle contraption. Here we fight these broom ladies who I love how methodically they sweep, and of course we see the snow react to the sweeping as well. The one fable art with this weapon is a dash attack that we see here, and then this nice spinning combo is the other. We also have these elf-looking puppets in this area dancing as we approach. I'll smack them a few times here so we can see the standard attacks with this weapon, but what if we don't want to fight and we just want to dance? Just like playing Dead for the Bears, we can just dance. I love this. Alright, that's enough dancing. We progress through the carnival, we take a train back to a familiar location from the base game in Hotel Krat, but we are going to save Hotel Krat for part 2 of this video, as well as some other things that we skipped over in the zoo and carnival, so please keep in mind that we will be circling back. Now we are headed down to the Zelator underground facility, which we reach via an elevator located in Hotel Krat. I love the look of the zoo and carnival, but not until the underground facility do we get some actually interesting level design with multiple floors and areas that twist and turn a bit, and then connect back to the area you started in. As we arrive down here, we are greeted by the silhouette of rats running across the HVAC, which is a nice touch. It gets a bit creepy in the underground areas ahead, with bodies hanging from the ceiling and creatures floating in tanks. And of course, to keep us on our toes, the creatures jump out at us from certain tanks as well. Also down here, we have a section where we have to carefully walk across elevated beams, which I do believe is a requirement of any Souls-like game to have a section like this. We'll fight a bunch of creepy carcass enemies down here, like this scorpion-tailed person, this blob man that hits us with the decay status effect, this mini-boss that rolls around and does this spree of attacks that is fun to try to parry. And my personal favorite of the carcasses down here is Will Smith's daughter. Dressed in a straitjacket with her arms restricted, she has to whip her hair back and forth at us, which has some serious range, and I just love the design choice for it. We also get some alchemists mixed in with the carcasses, like this big dog that we see a bunch of, and that in this case left us beautifully covered in blue goo after killing him, and a couple different versions of Mr. Freeze. While we were down here, I happened to try out the new Icarus Legion arm. This can fire up to 4 blades at once that circle around the enemy and then make their way back to you. This can definitely be useful, but I just don't like this feeling that I'm not even playing the game anymore, as I can just toss them and then let them go to work as I hide around the corner. While in the underground facility, we find this welder weapon that you can either poke with or shoot out a steady flame with. Interestingly enough, the poke is actually the strong attack and the fire is the light attack, which just felt weird to me. You can use a fable art to intensify the flames, as you can see they look more blue now, and the other fable art is this lunge attack. As fun as it may be lighting people on fire, this weapon did not interest me. Elsewhere in the underground facility, we find the La Vendetta weapon. This weapon is interesting, as it functions like a normal sword, but if you do a charge attack, it adds a little explosion oomph to it. And then if you activate the one fable art, now all of your attacks have a little pop of fire added to them. And if you charge up a 3-slot fable attack, you can unleash this big bang of an attack, which I love how you can eat damage while you charge it up, and I love watching this sword spin up in preparation. My favorite area of the underground was this cell block area that shows off some of that more interesting level design with multiple levels and a couple shortcut doors you can open. This area reminded me of the prison from Silent Hill 2 Remake from the look of it, but also as we jump into holes in the floor, which sounds ridiculous, but if you played Silent Hill 2 Remake, you know what I mean. I thought this area had some really nice looking lighting as well. While we're down here, we fight this ball and chain enemy who we saw from above. I wasn't sure if I was ready to fight him, but the game made that decision for me as the door locks behind us. I loved this enemy. His appearance fits that Silent Hill vibe, I thought. I love hearing the sound of the chains rattling as he moves, and the game does a good job of making you feel the weight of that ball and the way that he moves and the effects of it smashing into the ground. He's pretty strong, but his moves felt fairly telegraphed, so I had a good time dodging and waiting for the right time to strike. We do also face him a second time, which made me happy. As we descend deeper into the underground facility, we hear our next foe tease to us with this shouting dialogue we can hear echoing from afar with some voice acting that I thought was great. We pull up on our first boss of the underground, Veronique, the leader of the sweepers, with no intro cutscene but some intro dialogue.
My mind's ablaze! Make it stop!
And then that intro dialogue changes after you die and come back.
This is where we die!
I just love the delivery of that line. I was a big fan of this boss with the voice acting, the costume, the weapon, and the lore, which we will see a bit of at the end of the fight. Her weapon is a fire-spitting hammer that she uses in several ways. I like this move where she slams the hammer down, making you think you have a moment of opportunity to strike, but then she lets out a burst of fire on the ground to deny the area. You quickly learn to not fall for this, but I like how it made you be conscious of your footing. She swings that hammer around like crazy and leaves flames around the arena, again making you watch your step. As we learn her moves and get ready to take her down, I love this clip that shows the fighting spirit of this character. We get her in a backstab animation that I thought was going to end the fight, but she actually cancels the attack while screaming that she will never surrender and fights on till her last breath. As she falls to her knees, she gives us advice on where to go next, and we have the option to salute her, since we are pretty much on the same side in going against the alchemists, but her mind has sadly been corrupted. We give her a salute, and she utters these badass final words.
I die as I lived, without regret. Remember me, Veronique of Krat.
She leaves behind her will, which tells us that she basically went on a suicide mission to try to go against the alchemists and their experiments on humans. A chilling message to her comrades that no one will survive, and for that, she is truly sorry. Sadly, it had to be us to take her down, and even more sad is that we don't get to use her hammer. But at least we get her outfit, which is now my favorite drip in the game. Further up ahead in the underground, we face another good boss in the Two-Faced Observer. The game hyped him up as a test subject, and after all the stuff we've seen so far, I had no idea what was going to be on the other side of this door. We come face to face with the Two-Faced Observer, who splatters a body as we walk in. This design once again reminds me of Silent Hill with the look of Pyramid Head from the neck down. He has a head floating in a tank that I thought looked so sweet, but we shouldn't get too used to that view as he quickly becomes enraged, turning the tank from yellow to red while amping up his aggressiveness and giving reason for the name Two-Face. This stab and drag attack he can catch you in is so brutal, I love it. The combos can be fierce, but nothing is scarier than that drag attack, which also means nothing is more satisfying than dodging the drag attack. As the fight progresses, he switches back to the yellow face and then back to the red face. I thought this was a clever way to put a different spin on the first phase and then second phase concept many boss battles have by cycling the two phases. He beat me up several times, but then I got comfortable dodging his moves. It's actually crazy in the end how badly I almost choked this away, as I had him so close with plenty of cells left to heal with, and then I just went completely brain dead, panicking as he almost kills me 4 times before I finally finish the job. And we get a nice way to see him go down as his head explodes and he falls to his knees. Gotta love it. We make our way to the next major area of the game, which keeps us underground, but instead of a facility, we find ourselves down in the mines. Here's a real nice look at the lighting and verticality in the level design down here in the mines. We also get the immersive sounds of rushing water and puppets mining away in the background. This may sound ridiculous, but I love that the enemies down here are just mining equipment. We have the saw dog, miner puppet, this rock crusher bot, the double sledgehammer bot, the double pickaxe bot, a dramatic Kool-Aid Man entrance for this bot who has a mine planner in one hand and a tool in the other hand that looks like a hammer made out of a control arm from a vehicle maybe. There's this fire shovel puppet who I do believe we saw in the base game, but is a great design nonetheless. The king of all mining machinery is this drill plow contraption that also makes a startling entrance. This thing kicked my ass as it could take a ton of damage and can pretty much attack you from any side. I love that it has these little anthropomorphic arms on the sides in a kind of crane pose. Crane as in the technique from Karate Kid, not to be confused with crane like the piece of machinery. But then those little arms dig into the ground to stabilize the machine and allow it to do this deadly sweeping attack. This is just the beauty of this game, that it has me analyzing a piece of construction equipment in a way that I never saw myself doing. I did play The Surge, which is a Souls-like where you fight a bunch of machinery like this, but I was not a fan of that game really, so I was not loving the evil machinery like I am here. I will say I did like The Surge 2 more though, just gotta put proper respect out there. Back to Lies of P, we can destroy the tank on the back of this thing and get some free hits in. After getting drilled and plowed for longer than I care to admit, we finally take this sucker down. We do get more than just machinery enemies down here, as we get ambushed by this beast of a carcass that is like the gorilla bears we saw in the zoo, but with some wonderful body horror coming out of its head and shoulders that would look right at home in John Carpenter's The Thing. And when we kill it, we get a better look at all the baby arms coming out of its forearms. What a beauty. One last robot that we encounter is this shield robot who we run into on this bridge, but the more memorable encounter is up ahead in this harbor area. The reason it was more memorable here is that this thing dominated me here in this tight ring with open sides where this thing was just bullying me off the map. Fortunately, there's a stargazer nearby, so the run back isn't bad, and it only took me a few tries, but holy cow, this was harder than I thought it was going to be. Luckily, we have this new shotgun Legion arm in the DLC that I loved, and allowed me to blast him through his shield. And killing him allowed us to lower this badass looking submarine to clear a path ahead. Speaking of things that look good, like this submarine, while in the mines, I took this clip appreciating the detail that you get splattered with oil when taking down these miner puppets. Also, the lighting in this area is fantastic when the siren bot gets alerted to your presence, triggering the red light as we get the blue sparkles of Ergo and the rocks shining through as well. Further up ahead, we find the Shrine of the Silver Monker. I'm sorry if you're not in your 30s, there's a good chance you did not get that reference, but we get a nice look at Olmec again with waterfalls to the sides, and an Olmec that we can enter the mouth of, with some nice hieroglyphic-like detail in the surrounding walls and around his mouth. Before we talk about the bosses that we encounter in the mines, we have another new weapon to look at. This is the Arch's Guardian, which the item description tells us was prepared for the Complete one, also known as Laxasia the Complete, who was the sickest boss in the base game and who used lightning attacks against us. So naturally, this sword we wield uses lightning attacks as well. We can use a Fable Art to call down some lightning, allowing us to attack faster and have an enhanced dodge that makes us disappear in a dash of lightning. And the other Fable Art allows us to hold a steady stream of lightning to fry enemies like a Sith Lord. While we're exploring the mines, we ride an elevator that I swear I just so happened to serendipitously turn the camera around at the perfect time to notice this secret path. The Dark Souls games do this a lot, and while being a simple idea, I always thought it was the coolest thing being able to jump off the elevator midway to reach a different area. We hear some horrifying shrieking noises echoing through the mines as we walk into this unknown path, and then find ourselves falling into the den of the Green Hunter. I love how freaky this thing looks, and the way it braids its two tentacles together before it reels us in for an impalement is so slick and then discomforting, as it brings us face to face and then sucks some life out of us to regain its health. It starts burrowing underground, which isn't too hard to run away from, but then it does this leaping grab that got me a couple times, and that provides this great image of just our legs sticking out of it as it sucks the life out of us once again. I love as we dodge the grab attack this time, it looks from left to right, like where did he go? I didn't have too much trouble with this boss compared to the last few. The most notable thing about this fight might be the unexpected fashion in which the fight ends, which is with the Green Hunter digging a hole and then scurrying away. The reason the boss runs away is that this is a prequel and we need to fight the Green Hunter again in the base game, so we'll finish the job another time. Next up, before we finally make our way back to daylight, we have another boss to face, and this is an epic one. I just gotta let this cutscene cook for a minute here. What an epic and horrifying entrance as the music mounts suspense as well. We get a look at his predator vision, see him break the chains to show he's ready to go, and then some nice cinematography with a bit of forced perspective to make us look tiny compared to him. He is the anguished guardian of the ruins. This is one of those spectacle fights, I think, where the joy of the fight is more in the great soundtrack, cutscenes, and just looking at this thing than it is in the combat itself. I love his different sized arms and the way he just digs up rubble here. The most satisfying thing is smacking the growths on his hands or forehead that sparkle blue when you strike them and that eventually can burst after enough damage. As we go into phase 2, we get another glorious cutscene that I will let ride for a second. Badass. And now he's got some totally new moves to throw at us, shooting beams at us in 2 different ways, digging up delayed pillars of light, and pulling up a delayed circle of light. These delayed light attacks certainly did give me PTSD from phase 2 of the promised Consort Radahn fight from Elden Ring. But we'll get the growth on his hand to burst here with a nice parry, smack his forehead growth a ton until we get that to burst as well, which opens us up to deliver the sickest fatal attack in the game. So sick. From here on out, this is just one life that I'll chop up to make it quick, but I cannot believe I clutched this. Barely alive with no health packs, I resort to the stupid cube that I save for only desperate moments like this. We gotta make a couple dodges or else we're dead, which we pull off and get a health pack back. We get in close ready to do some damage, but my weapon durability cracks, so then we gotta back out, pretty much luckily panic dodging to safety. We hit another parry, make our way in to hopefully finish him off, but he escapes with a sliver of health until we finally take him down. All of that to unfold with my back against the wall just felt like a perfectly epic end to an epic boss battle. Before we head into the next area, let's take a quick look at the weapon that we got from the Guardian's Ergo, which would be the Pale Knight weapon. At first glance, it just looks like a sword and swings like a sword, but it has a revolver built into the sword so that we can do these gunshot attacks. And just listen to it. We fire a shot and then spin it around to reload it with the sound of the revolver cylinder spinning. And then with the Fable art active that enhances the attacks, we get an enhanced gunshot that sends us flying back, but then he aims the gun the other way to use a gun blast to thrust us back into the fight. I can't get over how cool that is and how smoothly they string together those animations that at first you may not even realize what is happening. And then the other Fable art is just a massive shot out of the gun that feels so powerful with the way it kicks you back and also the damage that it does. This is one of the coolest weapons I have ever laid my eyes on. As we leave the mine, we make our way along these cliffs until we arrive at this stunning view of an old ship with tattered sails silhouetted by a beautiful display of the northern lights. Definitely gotta soak this one in for a bit. The lighting here is interesting, with it being night, but the northern lights and the light of the full moon reflect off the snow and ice, making it practically feel like day. We make our way through some shipwrecks where we will find alchemists and some more soldier puppets. I love this clip here of this puppet trying to block our attack and we just break his sword right in half. While out on the ice, we get introduced to these swordfish that can be a pain in the ass, but I thought their design was incredible. My Dark Souls instinct to just dodge instead of blocking or parrying may have held me back here, but these things were so slippery I could not get a hit on them at first. But I loved watching them slither around, and the way their eyeball dangles out of their head when you kill them was the cherry on top for this cracked out design. We'll fight this mini boss here that isn't anything special but hits different underneath the northern lights, and then we fight a legitimate boss in this capsized ship, but we're actually going to save this one for part 2 of the video. We find another new weapon in this area, which will be the last new weapon we look at until the final weapon, which we get after completing the DLC. That makes 10 new weapons total in this DLC, and they're also different from each other and unique in general. I think the developers deserve a ton of credit for that. The weapon we find here is a big serpent head hammer that you can shoot acid out of the serpent's mouth with by using a Fable art. The other Fable art is an attack that is enhanced when used immediately after a parry, again providing something unique to this new arsenal of weapons. The next area we'll progress to is the lighthouse, so to know where to go, we'll just need to look up to the sky like a sailor lost at sea. Some more sweet visuals here with the light of the lighthouse casting out underneath the northern lights with layers of derelict ship masts between us and the lighthouse and layers of mountains beyond that. Once we make our way to the lighthouse, we really get a nice look at those colors in the sky and a close-up on this badass lighthouse. I don't know why, but lighthouses are so badass. At the base of the lighthouse, we'll stumble into a mini-boss arena against a giant version of the ice fish. This one is more of a shark than a fish, with pretty much everything about it apart from its hind legs, which are that of a frog's. Frog legs also mean this thing can jump up into the sky, which is cool to see how they incorporate the movements of both a shark and a frog with the way this thing moves around the arena. After we take down the shark frog, we make our way to the top of the lighthouse, and we lay eyes on our final destination of the DLC, the Rose Estate. There is more to talk about with the lighthouse itself and our trip from the lighthouse to the Rose Estate, but that will have to wait until part 2 again, I'm sorry. We enter the Rose Estate, or Monad Charity House as it's also known, and find ourselves in a building in disarray, with damage all over and bodies strewn through the hallways. There are signs of former elegance with the architecture, presence of maids, and people dressed in high-class clothing who have all been turned into these monsters. We face a couple beefy carcasses here, including this one who I suppose was the groundskeeper here, as he attacks us with dual push mowers. We get a nice look at us being covered in that blue goo in these clips, and we approach a sad scene here, with this monster presumably staring at a portrait of a loved one, showing there is a glimmer of humanity left in these transformed creatures. I wish I knew what he was attacking us with here. I can't quite make it out. He's wearing what looks like a police or maybe train conductor hat, which may be a clue to what he's holding, but I really can't tell. We venture down into the cellar, where we stumble into some creepy crawling chefs, and a nice well-lit scare here, right in the spotlight. After the cellar, we'll make our way up to this library section and face this heavy carcass who wields this awesome weapon that we did see in the base game, with several puppet arms connecting the blade to the shaft and barbed wire wrapped around it all. No video game library can be complete without a hidden passageway behind a moving bookshelf, and what can be better than that? How about 2 moving bookshelves? After we make our way through the library, we arrive at the final Stargazer of Lies of P. Overture, which means the doors ahead lead us to the final boss. Arlecchino, the Blood Artist, is by far the hardest boss in the game, and easily one of the hardest bosses I've faced in any game. You will be hearing him say tick-tock many times. Arlecchino is the ego of a serial killer awakened within the body of a puppet, and it certainly shows.
This is exactly what I've been waiting for!
His voice may sound familiar, as he is also the king of all riddles that gives us riddles over the phone in the base game. The voice acting performance is great and reminds me of Mark Hamill's Joker, which is a huge compliment. I came into this fight trying to dodge everything like Dark Souls has programmed me to do, but Arlecchino is such a force that we need to play by his rules, and trying to parry as much as possible seemed like the only way I could have a chance at taking him down. This fight was so tough that I was trying all different strategies. When to block or dodge certain attacks, trying different amulets and consumables, which I had not experimented with at all in the DLC until now. You'll even see that I have several wardrobe changes throughout these clips, as I was desperately grasping for anything that could get my morale up. Here's another nice clip of that shotgun Legion arm that I adore, but I even ended up switching that out eventually. Arlecchino forced me to try to parry more often, but I'm happy that he did, as that is how Lies of P probably should be played, and it was very satisfying stringing parries together like this. And if you parry him enough, his sword will break in half, which is satisfying every time, and is such a great feature in this game. Phase 1 is such a cakewalk compared to Phase 2 though. Yeah, he is insane. In more ways than one. This is how Phase 2 starts, and this is how long I lasted in Phase 2 the first time. The flying blood skulls actually aren't too bad to dodge once you know what's coming, but then immediately after that you will need to survive this onslaught that felt like Melania's legendary waterfowl dance from Elden Ring. I eventually was able to survive through this, but man, he dominated me with this sequence many times. Once that sequence is over, he will come at you with so many different attacks. He will saw you in the front, he will saw you in the back, he will saw you from afar, and he will saw your freaking head off. Which is so brutal, but is a thing of beauty, and is made even better by him pulling his hair back like a little girl in the background afterwards. What an absolute sicko. Even more brutal than that is this grab. Just look at the psychotic joy in his face as he does this to us. But after hours of trial and error, we get to the point where we can get through the first phase by only using one pulse cell, dodge all the opening blood skulls and the dive bomb attack, start whooping his ass, and we're feeling good. But then he unexpectedly starts over from the beginning with that intro attack, and I just know I'm screwed once the waterfowl dance part comes up. In the end, I honestly got pretty lucky that when he went to restart with the opening attack, I was able to put 2 of these Legion arm shots into him and finish the job before he started swarming. What an incredible relief it was to finally beat this guy. It probably took me 8 hours to beat him, but I stopped counting after a while. We get another unhinged cutscene with this freak in the end, and get an epic alley-oop sword toss to finish him off from Leia, the Legendary Stalker, who is the most important character in the DLC, and who I have avoided mentioning until part 2 of the video. Arlecchino was an unforgettable boss, to cap off an incredible DLC, that we have somehow only scratched the surface of, as we conclude part 1 of this video.
It was fun while it lasted.
Now we're ready to take a look at the elements of this DLC that are truly special, as we will focus on what elevates Lies of P Overture into greatness and what makes it a true work of art. What classifies something as a work of art can be subjective, but to me it is any form of creative expression that makes you feel or think. This can come in the form of music, literature, painting, storytelling, dance, cinema, or in the case of Lies of P Overture, a video game that captures all of the above. The word overture is defined as an orchestral piece at the beginning of an opera or play. That perfectly describes this DLC, as it is a prequel, so it is the beginning of this tale, but more importantly is the orchestra, which is a collection of various instruments playing together, just like how this DLC itself is an orchestra, or a collection of various arts intertwining to deliver the experience known as Lies of P Overture. The thread that connects all of these arts together is storytelling. Lies of P is the story of a puppet that becomes more and more human as we progress through the game. It's funny that lying is typically thought of as a bad thing, but this game puts you into situations where you need to make a decision, and lying is the more compassionate thing to do, as we lie to help others feel better, and then we ourselves feel more human in the process. This goes for Pinocchio, who we control, as well as us the player. Even in a physical sense, we start off in a foreign body, feeling rigid like a puppet, but as the game progresses and we feel more comfortable with the controls of the game, we move more fluidly and less like a puppet. Overture does an incredible job of continuing the story of the base game to make us feel human and feel many things. This is accomplished through the main storyline storyline, but it's the side stories that I really enjoyed. There are these side stories that make you feel like a detective and that are presented to us in a very cool way, with us finding these Krat Mysteries publications that are written with some great lines. This mystery tells the tale of a ghost crocodile said to possess the stuffed crocodile in the zoo we visit. With the help of our new friend the Tracker, we decode clues to solve the mysteries, and as we solve this particular mystery, we find that the story of the ghost crocodile was an attempt to cover up the murder of the taxidermist who stuffed the crocodile. There is also a Krat mystery about the lighthouse keeper who would extort boat captains by only providing light for those who paid him, which is a great scumbag plot that I've never heard of before. The lighthouse keeper was said to have gotten fat off of his extorted fortune, but one day he goes missing and his treasure was never found, leading to rumors that he ate the treasure himself and now haunts the lighthouse as the cries of a ghost are heard within the lighthouse. Just like how the keeper had gotten fat, we need to add weight to our gear to activate the pressure plate and then find the keeper and his treasure. Safe to assume the cries that were heard were not that of a ghost, but were those of the keeper who starved to death trapped inside of his treasure trove. My favorite of the Krat mysteries is the tale of the trapped miner. This is the story of a human miner they call the Misfit, who would bully the puppet miners, with one puppet in particular he bullied the most and would call Rockhead. One day the Misfit was working by himself, and Rockhead came over towards him, screams were heard, and the tunnel collapsed, trapping the two of them. The two of them could not be reached and were presumed dead. But to this day, the sound of a pickaxe can be heard mysteriously in the mine, leading to the urban legend that this sound is the ghost of Rockhead, who is thirsty for blood, trying to make his way out of the collapsed mine to kill more humans. As we find the origin of the pickaxe sounds, we find Rockhead and the skeleton of the Misfit. The diary of the Misfit reveals that it was actually the alchemist who doomed the Misfit to die because he saw something he shouldn't have, and Rockhead was actually running to try to save him. The sound of the pickaxe all this time was Rockhead trying to dig them out to safety. The Misfit even says if they make it out alive that he would take in Rockhead as a part of his family. How unexpectedly touching that is. This goes toward that low-hanging cliche theme that humans are the real monsters and not the puppets, but I love the way that this was told. Also, I love how while in the denial phase, the Misfit says he is mad that this happened after he bought his wife a gift, and that he refuses to die after spending so much money, which just shows us how whacked our priorities can be in life sometimes. After we solve the 3 Krat mysteries, we get a Sherlock Holmes outfit, which is a nice reward. We have a few other side stories. This would include the blind painter who we meet and politely lie to, telling her that her painting is a brilliant work of art, despite actually being a blank canvas. We later return to hand over her missing art supplies that we found so that she can finish her masterpiece. She's saying she's gonna make a masterpiece. I'm like, yeah, okay, after she showed us a blank canvas saying that it was her painting. But then we come back later and she has sadly passed away, but she left behind a beautiful piece of art, teaching us to not underestimate the talent people can have, and shows how far a small gesture can go, as simply returning the lost supplies to the blind painter inspired her to paint this beautiful scene. And to honor her wishes and make sure as many people see it as possible, we hang it in Hotel Krat as a perfect end to a short but touching tale. We also meet this little girl puppet, Rosora, who cannot dance without her lost shoes. We find her shoes, return them to her, and share a dance. We get the satisfaction of giving her the ability to not only dance, but also travel around the world, and also give her a new friend. How sweet. What's really interesting about Rosora is that she gives us pieces of this drawing of hers as we see her throughout the world of the DLC, with this particular piece showing Geppetto in the drawing. She's always talking about how she wants to be our friend, so I believe she is a puppet that Geppetto created to be friends with Carlo before he passed away and became Pinocchio. A side story that I was way more invested in was my man, the old fisherman, who tells us the story of him catching his white whale. I loved some of the lines he said, like this.
They all said I would never catch any fish. But I am a fisherman, the last fisherman of Krat. If not I, then who?
What a legend. But best of all is that all he wants is a beer to celebrate his triumph. We give him his beer, tell another white lie because no one in the right mind would tell the truth and tell him that everyone in his village is dead. My boy raises a toast and then dies with that celebratory beer in hand. He goes out like a legend, and I absolutely love him. In a sad turn of events, we enter his shack after he dies and find his wife dead on the bed with a note beside her of the fisherman saying that no matter what happens, he will always return to her. He sadly was not able to keep that promise, but now they're hopefully together in the afterlife, drinking beers. My favorite of these side stories is without a doubt this story we encounter down in the mines. We come across this damaged puppet who speaks to us saying they are actually a human who is trapped and is talking to us through the puppet. He says he's trapped somewhere so dark that he can't see his hands in front of his face and thinks he's locked inside of a coffin. He says he can no longer feel his arms or legs, but can still think, which means he is not dead. He tells us his name is Alexander, an alchemist, but a friendly one, and makes sure to mention how handsome he is. Eventually, we come face to face with him and find out that he is actually a brain floating in a vat. I figured something out of the ordinary would be awaiting us, but I did not expect this. He of course can't believe it at first when we tell him what the situation really is, and then he comes to realize that he has unknowingly become a subject of his own experiment as he invented this contraption. The conversation is great, watching him swiftly go through the stages of grief in real time, but also presents a profound question of what it means to be alive. Before we came face to face, he basically hit us with the "I think, therefore I am" quote, but this situation complicates that greatly. Alexander asks us to pull the plug on him, and we oblige. Let me know in the comments if any of you sickos refuse to pull the plug. As we pull the plug, he tells us to remember him, and lets us know once again that he really was handsome. I just really liked how this unfolded, as I didn't see it coming. I really liked the dialogue and voice acting by Alexander.
Brain in a vat. Does that even count as being alive? I don't know anymore.
And as a cherry on top, we get a record to add to our collection for seeing the side quest through. Not only do the records we receive come with art on the vinyl itself, but the songs are actually incredible, and they come with a message that matches the theme of whatever you just encountered in the game, with this one asking the question of what is human and what is love. Singing the sad love of those who have escaped humanity, which would certainly apply to our friend Alexander. This goes to show the layers to the artistic elements in this game. I have mentioned voice acting a few times by now, but wanted to wait to really talk about it in this part of the video, being that it is an art. There's something about the voice acting in this game that I enjoy so much. The tracker, for example, who helps us with the mysteries and who we speak to quite a bit, I love the way he hangs onto words and is just so relaxing to listen to.
Interesting.
Also, his voice has the sound to it where it sounds like it's really coming from someone who is wearing a mask, and that just makes the immersion skyrocket.
If you're looking for more clues about the alchemists, you should go there as well.
Dark Souls also did this with characters like Siegmeyer of Katarina, and I always appreciated it. Klaus is another new face in the hotel who serves as a merchant of fine goods, and also has great voice acting.
How do things fare outside, Master Stalker?
But my favorite voice acting performance in Lies of P. Overture is Lumacchio.
Ignorant fools say that we are adversaries, but in truth, our relationship is not that hostile.
He started talking, and I was immediately like, as it was unmistakably the voice actor of Astarion from Baldur's Gate 3. Shout out Neil Newbon, this guy is such a beast, and gotta shout out Baldur's Gate 3 for being the greatest RPG of all time. We talk to him for a bit in the hotel. We see him as we enter the mines, where he comes off a bit suspect.
You know where she's going.
And then we encounter him here, as the boss battle that I wanted to save for this section of the video, as his character is art to me. The voice performance is art.
But you know where she is. Don't you?
I love the delivery of that "don't you." His dialogue is art, his outfit is art, his character arc, although not super complex, is art, his boss battle is even art, with the twists and turns that take place. As the fight starts, we see his title as the leader of the Bastards, which we already knew. The Bastards are the rival faction to the Sweepers, who Veronique was the leader of. Lumacchio has a decent amount of attacks, some with some tricky timing, and some that are tricky thanks to the smokescreens he throws out in battle, like the smokescreens he threw out in conversation to make us think that he wasn't a scumbag. This fight reminded me a bit of Father Gascoigne or Lady Maria from Bloodborne, where it's a fast-paced fight against someone who feels evenly matched to you in size and skill. When this battle started, I was backstabbing him so easily that I thought this fight was going to be a cakewalk, but he had some surprises in store for me. The first surprise was him drinking an elixir to regain health, which we couldn't have seen coming. This was another example of them finding a different way to have multiple phases to a boss fight, apart from just finishing one health bar and then them getting a new health bar. And then the fight takes a turn, as he regains health again, but as a result of the elixir unexpectedly transforming him into a monster. Those alchemists surely cannot be trusted. I love how we don't know what exactly is happening in this blue cloud, and then he comes flying out at us, giving us little time to react. He absolutely smoked me several times coming out of that transformation until I got the timing down. I like how Lumacchio's mask is a golden snail, and then when he transforms, his head turns into a big nasty snail. This phase is mostly tough due to having to avoid the decay effect that he hits us with, and that he also leaves clouds behind of. You can try avoiding the clouds, which is sometimes easier said than done. You can fall back on resistance consumables, or you can try managing the durability with your grindstone. I like the challenge this presents in forcing us to use more of the tools that the game provides. When we finish the fight, Lumacchio tells us he was just following orders from Simon Manus, who we fight in the base game, as if that absolves him from trying to kill us. He begs for his life like the coward that he is. We have the choice to leave him or punish him. I am the law around these parts, and we cut him down.
No! I was chosen!
We have saved the best and most important arc of Overture for last. Leia, the Legendary Stalker. who we have been chasing after for the majority of the DLC. We hear about the Legendary Stalker and then start seeing her in cutscenes passing through areas before we pass through them. We see Leia arrive at this brutal but beautiful work of art with human bodies covered in wax clumped together in the shape of a rose. This looks like something Sandra Cohen from BioShock would create, but is the work of Arlecchino the Blood Artist, leaving us a hint that he will be at the Rose Estate while also taunting Leia by leaving the outfit of her apprentice on the ground as well. We slowly find out more about Leia as Jiminy Cricket tells us that no one in the future or present day, since we are in the past, knows what happened to Leia, and even if she is dead or alive. We come to find out Leia is suffering from the petrification disease and is on a mission to save her apprentice, Romeo, who we know from the base game as the King of Puppets. Romeo was also Carlo, or the real boy version of us, best friend growing up together at the Rose Estate, but Pinocchio doesn't know that in the base game and forces Romeo to reluctantly fight him. Thinking back on it, man, this game is so good. Leia also reveals that Romeo was not her only apprentice, as Carlo was an apprentice of hers as well, but she was too late to save Carlo from his fate. We also eventually learn that Leia is Sophia's sister, who was a major character in the base game. This also means that Leia's last name is Monad, like the Monad charity house, and her father is Valentinus, who was once the leader of the alchemists. That is one juicy backstory for Leia. Between the lighthouse and the Rose Estate, we finally come face to face with Leia after being on her tail for a while. We hand her Romeo's locket. She takes her mask off to reveal that she's actually a babe. We convince her we're on the same side, and then push onward together to save Romeo from Arlecchino. We fight through some enemies together that bring back the enemies that we fought throughout the DLC, and we get a glimpse at how insane her sword is. She mentions that our fighting style seems familiar to her, which of course is because we were her apprentice as Carlo before the events of the game, and it was pretty cool having these moments where we were attacking enemies in unison, feeling truly like a master and apprentice. Once we reach the Rose Estate, we have this emotionally devastating moment when we find another piece of Arlecchino's art that has human arms hanging down. The ring on the finger tells us that Romeo's arms have been cut off and used in Arlecchino's latest piece. This is a crushing moment for Leia, as she fears she is too late again like she was for Carlo and swore she would never be again. And we get this powerful shot of Leia emotionally beaten down to her knees while Romeo's arms sway above her and the portraits on the wall disturbingly show blood pouring out of their eyes as well. The music also hits here, really driving home the gravity of this moment.
Is it me?
This was devastating for Leia, but man, I couldn't get enough of this piece of art by Arlecchino. I thought it was awesome. It just looks so wild. I wasn't sure if that was his whole body in there stretched out at first or what. He may be an absolute lunatic, but my guy Arlecchino knows how to mix brutality with beauty incredibly well, as the collection of roses transitions to blood in this creatively bizarre piece he has left for us here. For the final boss fight against Arlecchino, I conveniently skipped over Leia's presence during this endeavor when talking about it earlier. We can have Leia fight alongside us in this fight, but I don't have any footage of that since I'm a tryhard. We see Romeo's body hung up in the background of the arena during the fight, which is great as a constant reminder of what we're fighting for. As our fight against Arlecchino concludes, Leia of course is the one who throws the alley-oop to us with her sword. We poetically cut Arlecchino's arms off just like he did to Romeo, and then we unleash a flurry of attacks on him with Leia's insane sword. Leia holds Romeo in her arms as we get a glimpse at Romeo's new puppet arms. Leia lets us keep her sword, and just as she realizes who we are, we vanish as mysteriously as we arrived. I saw people online saying that we were actually here in the past as a specter or summon who Leia summoned, like how you can summon people in the game, and that's pretty awesome if true. As soon as we think it's all over and we have our relatively happy ending, this piece of shit shows up. Geppetto, who we know in this world as a sociopathic scumbag, shows up with his briefcase that we know holds the nameless puppet, who is also the final boss of the base game depending on the ending you chose. But for Overture, this is the chilling ending that we get.
I believe in you. Carry on. Don't forget, this is your story now.
With the unsheathing sound of a blade, we now know the mystery of what happened to the Legendary Stalker. I've got chills just talking about it. Lies of P Overture is a work of art in so many ways, and I hope that I did a serviceable job in displaying that today. We covered so much in this video, but still didn't cover it all. The content continues after that final cutscene, and we find Leia's hidden room at Hotel Krat with a painting of her and her two apprentices. There's an audio log here that she's left behind, which is something else that we get in this DLC that I didn't even fit into this video. We are now able to equip Leia's outfit and sword, which has crazy moves and that scatters rose petals around as you strike. Beautiful. From a gameplay standpoint, this DLC has so much to offer with plenty of new enemies, weapons, and features to take in. They've added features we haven't even mentioned, like the new ways to upgrade your character. They've added replayability to the base game with the new weapons, but also with the events that happen in the DLC affecting things in the timeline of the base game. And this quality of life improvement here, where you can consume ergo from your inventory while at the level up screen, should be in every Souls-like game. I'm not sure who did it first, but it is great. And apart from the gameplay, like I've said, this DLC is a work of art from top to bottom. Even the main menu screens look gorgeous and change as you progress through Overture. Most important of all, you get more moments with the Hotel Krat cat, who is now a kitten. As always, thank you for watching. I would love to hear people's thoughts of Lies of P Overture down in the comments. Let me know what your favorite aspect of the DLC was, or let me know what the last thing you lied about was. Until next time, Legendary Stalkers.